Hello, I'm David Domke. I'm chair of the Department of Communication at the University of Washington. I'm periodically talking to faculty and students about really exciting or interesting things they're doing in their teaching, in their research, and other professional endeavors. I want to spend just a couple minutes talking today to one of our faculty, Matt McGarrity, who's teaching a massive open online course, or what we call a MOOC. These courses are becoming more common in higher education. They're not for credit, but they allow students to get a taste of some idea for free, to enroll online and to follow a course online. Matt's teaching such a course on public speaking, never been done before. So I want to just check in with Matt. He's week 4 in a 10-week course. So just a quick check-in and see how things are going and get some of Matt's reflections. So thanks a lot, Matt.
Oh, happy to do it.
So how many people enrolled?
I think I checked this morning and it was about 112,000.
Okay, and what's an assignment they've done so far?
Well, they've actually done a couple. So in week 1 just sort of was orientation, and then in weeks 2 and 3 we worked on the impromptu speech. So then the impromptu speech, very similar to what I do here at UW for this assignment, they have to quickly put together a 2-point speech. So we just finished that, and people have had the chance to upload and provide peer feedback on their introductory speeches, which are very short, sort of here's who I am, here's what I work on, and then now we're in the middle of providing peer evaluation on that impromptu speech. And just today, we started the second major unit, which is this informative speech. And so they won't be posting those informative speeches for a while, but we're in the process of starting to talk about how they might put those together.
So peer evaluation, they're watching each other's speeches and giving comments?
Yeah, and so part of this is happening through the Coursera platform. That's the way it's been designed. So there's you upload you provide a link, and you put it in the peer review system, and then when it comes time for that, 3, 4, 5 people go and watch your speech, and then they use the feedback form that I've designed to provide feedback on that. Now that's sort of how it's happening. That's how I designed it. Now what's really been, I'm very impressed with, is how people have been doing peer review and giving feedback outside of the Coursera system. So people in the discussion forums will say, oh, here's a practice speech I did. Would some people take a look at it? And sure enough, you'll see comments under there providing feedback on that. There have been a couple of Facebook groups that have popped up around this course. I didn't design them, but I mean, these have just emerged, and people are posting their videos embedded in Facebook, and then you'll see long discussion threads providing feedback. So there's a lot of peer feedback going on, and in many ways it's based on what students want. So one of the other nice things about doing it through the discussion group or doing it through the Facebook group is people can provide feedback and do their speeches in their native language. And that's just something I can't control, and I'm glad I'm not controlling, because it's allowing students to work with this material in ways that they find more helpful.
So you have people across cultures responding to each other, but then also people within language groups doing their work.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, public speaking is so culturally specific in terms of what works in one culture, or what's accepted, or what's appreciated. And so it's been interesting to sort of provide general advice about public speaking, but then say, oh, well, you know what, in Russian, this doesn't work as much. Here's maybe a modification to make sure that general principle adheres to, works for a Russian audience.
So what's your first point of assessment? We're a third of the way through the class. Assessment of whether there's some real learning going on.
Well, what's my assessment? Well, one thing is just what people are saying. So I've been very happy, pleased that people have been very appreciative. So on Twitter and on Facebook and in the class, just providing some good feedback, and people sort of self-reporting. Oh, here's where I was before, here's where I am now. So indicating that they themselves are learning. In terms of sort of output assessments, one of the things that I would be looking at is generally how many people are completing those recorded speeches, or going through the assignment system. It's in no way required for the course, and people can choose to do it. Now, if I had only 1% of the class doing it, well, then that would tell me something. I'm certainly seeing a lot more people doing it than I thought would, and then I'm looking at what sort of, getting snapshots of this, what sort of feedback are people providing. And the feedback that people are providing to one another in that peer review system is very good, and it's very detailed. And so they're just really engaging the stuff as a speaker, but then just as important, they're engaging the material as a speech critic, which will help them as a speaker as well.
Has that been surprising to you, how engaged they are?
Yes. Well, I shouldn't say that. That's sort of like anyone watching who would be in the course. You have not disappointed me. It's not that at all. It's just that I was assuming that people would see speech criticism as very secondary to their role as a student in this class. And that's not been the case, at least in terms of what I have seen.
Okay. So what do you think, what are you learning about how you teach? What are you pulling pieces out of this that you say, hey, I think I've learned something myself?
Oh my, yes. What a wonderful opportunity to have anonymous feedback from, tens of thousands of people. So, what have I learned? Well, certainly I'm very comfortable, and I spend a lot of time developing my speech persona in front of a live audience. When I record these video lectures, I don't have that. I've got 2 cameras and a couple of camera guys, and they don't talk. So I don't really have that audience. So when we recorded week 1, so we're just starting week 4, and we've recorded well past week 4. When we first recorded week 4, we were doing those out of sequence, and we were still trying to figure out what would make those video lectures work. And I want to, as much as possible, have it be my persona from in class. And so those were uploaded, and week 1 is released, and I'm anxious. I'm looking at all the discussion forums, and there was a thread, a very popular thread. Perhaps wish it wasn't as popular as it was, and it was called Matt's Gestures. And I thought, oh, this isn't going to be good. And what it was people from different cultures saying, to me he speaks fast, and his gestures are, there was a lot of this. And so they're like, yeah, I feel as if he's scolding me. And so I had sort of refined my pattern for a live audience, and all that works great for a live audience. So people are like, I think it's a little bit too much, and other people are like, oh no, I think it's wonderful. And then what it emerged into was a fascinating discussion, an intercultural discussion about what types of speech behaviors are appropriate for different cultures. And so you had some people saying, well, here in China, we wouldn't necessarily do that. And other people saying, well, here in Australia, we would. Yeah. So that's what I was most pleased at, that I was able to provide a prompt for this really interesting intercultural discussion. But it was initially sort of like, oh boy, here's close analysis of my hands.
Right, and so has it helped you to reflect upon the kinds of ways you gesture and interact?
Oh, most certainly, and how I structure material, and having to think beyond the traditional classroom setting that I'm used to. And I mean, we're an intercultural university, no doubt, but this is just on a different scale altogether, and the feedback has been very beneficial to me. I'm learning a lot about how public speaking emerges and the role it plays in a wide range of cultures.
Yeah, and do you think that when you look at the ways in which they're asking questions or engaging on threads, or the speeches that they're creating and uploading, that you have literally thousands of people that are earnestly trying to learn this stuff?
Oh yeah, no one is going through this, posting a speech and doing it with a high degree of irony, right? There's a pretty significant level of commitment, and indeed there is. I mean, it's a face-threatening act to record oneself and post it for a global group of strangers. But they're doing it because I think for the most part we've been able to create some norms within our community that says, look, we're here to work on speech. We're here to get better at this, and so the level of civility has just been, I haven't had to worry about it too much. There's been a lot of just authentic attempts to get better, and really authentic attempts to help others get better.
Yeah, this reminds me of an experience that I had. About 10 years ago, I started to teach in a program we called Gear Up on campus, which was junior high and high school kids from underprivileged positions coming to campus for a week. And you teach high school students of a certain economic affluence on this campus usually. So all of a sudden I was interacting with students that were just different than ours, age-wise, economically. And it really kind of got into my face in terms of thinking about what's the effective ways to interact with all students, right? And it's stuck with me for a long time in terms of shaping how I interact and respect students, right? So these kind of unforeseen consequences of this process. What has been kind of the, maybe one thing here, and then we'll kind of wind it down. What has been one thing that so far you'd say, I wish I would have gone about this piece a little bit differently?
Well, it's at this point that's hard for me to sort of take that huge step back. I'm still very pleased with the design of the course, the structure of the course, and the content that we're providing. Certainly, one of the things that's been a big, there are a couple of things that I would say are under the larger heading of sort of technological issues. So in terms of pedagogy, I want to make some changes already. We're not even done recording each and everything, but I certainly want to make changes as I would with any class. But creating a platform that encourages as much activity as possible and minimizes barriers to access. So we have to work primarily through YouTube, but of course YouTube is blocked in China and Pakistan and some other countries. And so trying to find a workaround that is both, I want to sort of authorize certain websites for posting those videos, because in the peer review system I don't want somebody to be worried about a link, right? Dangerousvirus.com, oh well that sounds reliable, click, so I don't want them to be worried about that, but sort of finding a balance between here's some websites that I know will work, but also trying to navigate around sort of those other concerns. And then the other sort of technological issue is the discussion forums. I think this has proven to be such an important part of the course, but from a platform standpoint, there's a lot going on there, and perhaps more than one can easily sit down and apprehend all the various threads that are going on. So I wish there was a way. That's not really sort of my concern, but it affects me as it affects the course of trying to find a way to make those discussion forums more navigable.
Yeah. So you're about a third of the way in the class, 10 weeks, right?
Yeah, 10 weeks.
It goes 10 weeks. So they've got how many speeches left?
So they'll have at least 2 formal speeches left, and then a number of sort of other activities. So they do a lot of activities in lecture and in class, and then of course what they're posting on their own. Formally, I've got sort of 2 major benchmarks left, the informative speech and the persuasive speech.
Okay. So we'll check back in with you again and see how it's going after maybe the next speech.
Great.
Yeah, and kind of see what kind of wisdom that you're gleaning along the way. What the next thread will be, Matt's close, or whatever it'll be.
Please God, no. There was a snapshot of somebody had paused the video, and I was taking a breath in. It's this terrifying picture of me, and of course that enjoyed lots of discussion on Facebook. And I'm like, great, wonderful. That's what you learned. Don't be a bald troll. That's my lesson unto you. So.
Well, thank you very much to Matt McGarrity. He's kind of the guinea pig in this new MOOC environment for the Department of Communication. 100,000+ people engaged in a public speaking class that he's teaching. Really, really courageous of you, Matt. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for joining us on this Chair Chat. I'm David Domke, Chair of the Department of Communication at the University of Washington.